Kliegman. My day job, for my day job, I work at the National Science Foundation. And what I do for them is I work in the entrepreneurship division, and that sort of exposes me to a lot of early stage entrepreneurial projects. And I also get the opportunity to sort of bridge the divide between entrepreneurs and academic researchers. And I came across Nextjournal kind of within that, and I thought it was an awesome technology, and I've been working with them to try to sort of help that slash analyst make their technology more friendly for the user slash analyst end of the R user spectrum. So I'm just going to run through their platform, run through the technology, and give you some demos on how it works. So it's called Nextjournal, and it's what is it? It's a web-based tool for reproducible research. Another optional title for the talk is how to do awesome stuff in a fantasy land where dependency issues are like unicorns. So I just want to start out like imagining a common scenario. And so suppose you stumble upon a truly awesome research article that's interesting to you and relevant to your work, and you think, wouldn't it be fantastic if I could try this out myself? And so this is an awesome research paper on AI in the game of Go. And so you search around the web, and you're really lucky. You hit the jackpot when you find an implementation of that paper on GitHub. And you're thinking, true understanding of the Go research paper is moments away. You'll be able to perfectly reproduce what they did. So you clone the repo, and you're super excited to get it running. And you go to the installation wiki, and you start working through the steps to install the necessary dependencies to get the software up and running. You work systematically through the steps, but then TensorFlow, one of the many libraries that the code relies on, won't install. And you try and you try, and you spend hours trying to get to the bottom of the issues, and hours later you give up in frustration because this one library just won't install, and you can't get to the bottom of it. You can't get it installed on your machine. So what you've just experienced, as I'm sure all of you here have, is what we call dependency hell. So complex research projects often require complex configurations, which is hard to perfectly reproduce across different machines. And Nextjournal's technology, or Nextjournal's platform, solve this and many other issues. So, I mean, there's dependencies exist on all levels, on the operating system level, as you know, the system library version level, the language runtime level, and language-specific packages. And so what Nextjournal's platform tries to do is to move you out of the blue box into the green box, into a dependency-free world. And so let's take a look at what the platform actually looks like. So this is just a screenshot of the website. On the surface, it's not much different from what people know about other notebook style development environments like Jupyter. Under the hood, though, Nextjournal is quite different and significantly more powerful. If we, dissect a Nextjournal article, it consists of various layers that all kind of are aimed towards providing full reproducibility. And so what are those layers? One thing the platform provides is automatic version control for all content changes. So if you make changes to the title, to the narrative, to code elements, all of that's automatically recorded and version controlled for you. results. So in the green box is just a graph that was produced with the code above it. That result is stored and content addressed so that if you want, so it's intrinsically linked to the article and you can always retrieve it. And the same is true for data uploads or inputs that you want to incorporate into the code. And lastly, the file system state. So the full stack of software configuration required to run the code is saved and available for use. So that's libraries, binaries, operating systems, etc. It's all automatically snapshotted and persistent in a Docker registry. And that's really the kind of under the hood sauce that makes this special. So for those, I'm sure most of you know, but for those that don't, Docker is software that allows you to create a snapshot of all the required dependencies so that the software you create will run perfectly. So under the hood, Nextjournal harnesses the power of Docker. So every article that you create in Nextjournal saves its own unique Docker image that allows the code contained in that article to be perfectly reproducible every time it's run. Nextjournal's saved environments are Docker images. And so those Docker images contain the whole file system state, as I said before, the operating system, libraries, binaries, etc. The images are versioned and available to clone from the Docker registry. So in the over to the left, in the lower orange box, you can, if you want to clone and export the Docker environment from your Nextjournal article, you can just click a box and do that. And if you want to use a Docker image from another article, you can also do that using that kind of environments orange box to the left. Okay, so what does it look like in practice? Let's take a look at how you might go about creating a Nextjournal article. So this is just a short video where we'll go through the process of creating an article. So you can just click add a new article, and we're just going to start out with an empty article with no content. You can type a new title for your article and say you want to add some text, and we're going to inspect some demo data, say empty cars, since you've never heard of it. And we're gonna run that cell, and the first time you boot up, it takes a bit longer than in subsequent runs, just because it's creating that Docker image from scratch. So it's scheduling the runner, and eventually it'll run the cell. And there you go. It's the empty cars data set. Then say we want to visualize, or make a visual using the empty cars data set. We can just attach the ggplot library and factor some variables, use standard syntax from ggplot to create this plot, and we're done. So we've created our first Nextjournal article. So that's all good, and that's a very simple and basic example. But things get much more interesting with more complex setups. And so the code I'm about to show you is actually in Python, not R. But the core functionality and the features that I'm going to demonstrate will remain the same regardless of the language. So for this one, I'm using, what we're going to do is we're going to remix an article, and what remix means is, it's the same as cloning a repo on GitHub. Somebody else made the article. We want to remix it and change it and use it for our own purposes. So in this article, it's just the contents are, it's a machine learning algorithm that looks at a photo and tells us what the contents of that photo is. So we're going to press the remix button, and now we have a copy of that article in our own workspace, and we see, this is a photo of a cat. We see in the prior run, it calculated a cat, and we want to change it to horse because horses are more rodeo. And so we added our horse, and now we're going to rerun the article to see if the algorithm can correctly identify the horse. So it's running the cell, and there's a lot behind this. I mean, KRS is behind it, TensorFlow is behind it, so it takes a few seconds. And there's a time monitor on the bottom reporting on how long it takes to run. And it correctly reports that our photo is in fact a horse. Then say we want to undo the changes that we just made to revert to the old version. We just press the undo button. It reverts to the cat. But you can see the result of the computation still reads horse, so we need to recompute the code cell in order to show a cat, and it does that. So it reverts to cat, and then say we want to publish the results. So we want to put it up on the web, out of our personal workspace. We press the Publish Now button, and it's on the web. And so we want to look at the final version, and there it is. So from our workspace, we've uploaded and published our own version of that image classification with KRS. So what are the key features that Nextjournal provides? I think this is a good list of the key features that it really gives you. It gives you a consistent computer configuration, which is awesome. No prior knowledge of version control software is necessary, so it does version control for you automatically. This is great for scientists. Everybody in this room, I'm sure, is very familiar with GitHub and knows how to use it, but out in the wild, there's a lot of scientists that might know some basics of R, but don't fully understand the particularities of version control and why it's important. What it provides is long-term reproducibility. So it doesn't matter if you create because of the Docker under the hood. It doesn't matter if you create an article 4 days ago or 4 years ago. In theory, it should run seamlessly and perfectly with all of the libraries and binaries the same they were the day that you created the article. A major advantage is that it's possible to create multi-language notebooks using the platform, and that means that you can create notebooks in multiple languages, but even in the same notebook, in the same article, you can mix and match languages, and I think that's great. And lastly, it's easy to share and truly reuse and reproduce the results using this platform because the configuration is saved. And so one of the most common questions that we get about the platform is kind of what differentiates this from Jupyter. And I would say that with the biggest differentiators have to do with just the Docker backend. And so Jupyter notebooks are great, and if you can hand somebody a Jupyter notebook and they can perfectly reproduce the code that you used, but it doesn't automatically come with those dependencies. And there are patches and workarounds if you're computationally savvy, but for an average scientist doing science, not all of them have the capability or expertise to make their Jupyter notebooks perfectly reproducible. There's also an advantage with, on the multi-language level. You can code Jupyter notebooks with several languages, but to my knowledge, you can't mix and match languages within the same Jupyter notebook. Jupyter notebooks make it very easy to share results, but as I mentioned before, Nextjournal is a little bit cleaner and a little bit easier when it comes to reusing and perfectly reproducing the results. So these are the languages that are currently supported on the platform. We support R, Julia, Python, JavaScript, Bash, and Clojure. If there's something here that you want that's not, get in touch because I think in the future we'll be adding more. We want to support other formats. A lot of you have R Markdown documents or Jupyter notebooks that you want to continue to be able to use. We made it very easy to import your existing Jupyter notebooks and have Jupyter runtime available for that. We also make it easy to import these R Markdown and other formats. So I talked briefly about the ability to export the Docker environment from a Nextjournal article, but another thing that some of you in the audience might have is you might already have a pre-existing Docker image that you want to use for your articles, and so we have a feature for that as well. And if you want to import your pre-existing Docker image into Nextjournal and use that to conduct your work, you're able to do that easily and simply. And that's it. Thanks for listening. We're at nextjournal.com. We're in private beta right now, but we're giving you a private access code. So if you want to use that access code to sign up today and start creating your own articles, go right ahead. You can email me directly at joekliegman@gmail.com, or you can contact the team via the website, and the team is very responsive. If there's issues, if there's stuff you want to try out, get in touch. And that's it. Thanks.